We had some lines in 2022 because people showed up to vote and they didn't know about the constitutional amendments. They had not read them. They were long, they were complicated, they were in legalistic language, and they didn't understand them. And then they waited around in the voting booth and they Googled these things to try to figure out what they meant, what they would do. Don't do that. Please don't do that.
A consequential election approaches with several things on the ballot that can confuse voters. And that's why you're hearing and will continue to hear officials pleading with voters to be informed. So we broke down and explained Constitutional Amendment 1 yesterday, and today we are doing the same with Amendment 2. Both will be on the ballot in Kentucky. So that means no matter where you live, if you are voting on Election Day, you will decide on these matters. So WDRB's Dalton Godbey here now to explain. Dalton, why is the Amendment 2 being called the School Choice Amendment?
Well, that's because if it were to pass, then lawmakers could roll out a school choice program as soon as the 2025 legislative session. That starts in January. This constitutional amendment asks voters whether they want the General Assembly to send public tax dollars to private schools. On the ballot, voters will get the choice of yes, which supports the change, or no, which opposes it.
All right, so there seems to be some confusion about what would happen if this passes and whether it would automatically fund charter schools or private schools. Can you sort that out for us?
Yeah, that is part of some of the misinformation that has gone on about this bill. No, it will not automatically fund charter schools or a voucher system if this were to pass. However, it will give that choice to lawmakers as soon as this next legislative session if it does pass. It's important to note also that in 2022, the Supreme Court struck down a school choice measure that GOP lawmakers passed years prior.
And many of those lawmakers who passed that measure the year prior that the Supreme Court ultimately struck down are still in the legislature. So there is thinking out there that there is still support for school choice in the legislature if this gets through on Election Day. All right, so who has come out in support of this and what groups are opposing the measure?
Well, public school advocates are certainly a big group against passing Amendment 2. They think that it will pull resources and funding away from public schools. Other groups are in favor of this because they say that it actually gives families more choice about where to send their kids to school for the best education. Let's listen to them both.
Amendment 2, or the voucher amendment, paves the way for our state to begin writing blank checks to private schools using our tax dollars that should go to public schools and our students.
We need to be less concerned about propping up a mediocre or failing system and much more concerned about preparing our kids for the future.
Certainly been a contentious debate over this amendment question, but voters will get the ultimate say come November 5th.